Righto, you mad dogs. This week, short and sweet. Just been picking away a few little odds and sods on the F10, and you have a bit of a yarn about some of the common rust issues with these little Daihatsus. We'll catch you after the intro. We're going to put some Daihatsu back in the Daihatsu. Going to pull the motor and box out of this thing so I can do a bit of work on the mounts and that in the workshop over the week. To get the radiator support out, you've got to undo the front lip of the guards, and I thought while I was there what I should do is re-seam seal the top of the firewall underneath the guard. I'll show you what it looks like here. There it is there. So this is a real bad spot for Daihatsu because obviously the guards comes here, so you've got like a 25mm pocket there that just fills up with shit. They didn't undercoat it and they didn't seam seal it. They just put seam seal in the corner, and as you can see it's quite brittle. That cracks out. That then goes into into the cabin if you're lucky. If not, it goes into the fresh air vents. And then it'll rust all out underneath the dashboard. This is, up underneath this hump is actually a pocket that feeds fresh air to the heater from these vents on the side. That's why all Daihatsus have got the vent on the side. That's just fresh air for your heater box. So because that's a pocket, it gets moisture in there and it just rusts out. Sarge's one is completely gone. That's why it's just a bush truck. This one is really good, but if you have a Daihatsu, please pull the guards and then wire brush it, re-etch prime it, re-seam seal it, because the seam seal always goes hard in there. Without a doubt, that is one of the biggest issues with rusting in Daihatsus, is that pocket there, because it builds up with mud and then it just rusts through. So it's a bit of a pain to get to. As you can see, you've got 4 bolts on the back here, well 3 there, 1 all the way down the bottom. This one's the hardest to get to because it's all the way at the top and you've got to jam your arm up underneath the guard. If you're going to do that, pull the indicator out. It's a lot easier because it's very easy to shear the wiring off to the back of the indicator. I didn't do that to this because I've done enough of them. But as you can see, there's the hole for the bolt. There's the fucking indicator right there. And you're trying to pass the socket up above the top of it. You shear the wiring off to that indicator, you can't get any more. I've tried to repair them before with varying success. I just keep a stockpile of side marker indicators nowadays. So pull the guard off the other side. I've already got it roughly loose. I've got to do the bolts in the back of the guard because they're the hardest. And then I'll hit that with a wire brush, etch prime it, seam seal it, and then I'll be able to box the guards up knowing that that is safe now. It won't have another issue with it. But if you have a scat, pull the guards. Please pull the guards. You have to. So, I'm going to get into it. Righto, just pulled the passenger side guard off, and here's what I mean. Look at all this shit here. Loose dirt. It's even up underneath the lip here. See, there's no seam sealer there. That's actually part of the firewall plate there, and then that's the inner guard. It just sits up against it. And then you've got a seam running all the way down there, around there, not a drop of seam sealer in it. Just they plugged this little corner because they punched a massive hole in there for the bend for that, because that's all formed out of one sheet. You can sort of see the seam there, folds comes there, that's all one piece there, so they put a massive hole there and just plug it. There, there's no seam sealer on the edge in here, nothing. So pull your guards, get it before it gets you. Right, so what I've done, I've wire brushed it and then I've just hit it with a bit of rust converter to try and save on as much metal there as I can. Pretty much the whole way down. It's a bit hard to see. There's the hole. It just goes into no man's land. So I'll re-seam. I'll seam that hole along there. I'll jam a bit on that lip that goes all the way down. And then I've got that underbody tar stuff. I'll redo that whole lip, probably the hole in the guard while I've got it apart. But I'll let that sit and let the rust converter do its thing. This hole's not as big, they vary a bit. I remember I'd done my brother's F65, and it had like a 20mm hole in it. It was huge. None of the seam sealer was left. It was bare metal. It actually started to, it had rust pock marks in the top of it, so it wasn't long until it started to go through. So we treated that appropriately, and then what did we do? I think we used seam sealer, and we built up like a ramp so that mud couldn't actually sit on there anymore. Just sort of underneath the guard, so like 10mm and then down to nothing across that plate. Maybe I'll do the same here, maybe I won't, I don't know. Haven't thought that far ahead. For now, we'll let the rust converter do its job. I'll get this rad support out, sling the motor out, and start pulling the mounts off it so I can sandblast and paint them at work. What is it? It's about 7:30 now, so I don't have much light left, so I probably won't film much of this. We'll catch you in the next bit. There we are, quick blast and paint on the mounts, radiator, engine, and then just sized up. Lucky for me, there's already a bit of 10mm plate on the bed. There's a gearbox crossy, so I'll jump on SolidWorks, do a wee bit of drawing. I'm going to have it pretty much that wide, and then when it comes in to where the chassis mount is, we'll have a couple of little 45 flanges on it, and that'll fold up on the pan brake, and that should prevent it from bending. Not that, you know, 300 kilos and 5 horsepower and 3 Newton meters of torque is going to bend a 10mm plate cross member, but I'll feel better about it. Alright, one cross member, bam! That's what our layout on SolidWorks. So these bits here, they're the parts that are going to get folded up at 45. I think it's going to come out pretty good. Alright, another day. What we have here that finally turned up is let me get it out of the box, replacement water pump for the K. One thing I did do, that's obviously blower hose for the radiator, that's heater. There was another port on this side, just a bung pressed into it. I pulled it out, drilled and tapped it to accept a standard 1/8 BSPT plug. That port mainly is because like the K series was used in multiple different cars, vans, trucks, forklifts, and that was just another bit of water to go somewhere else. It come with a plug, one of them like vacuum port plugs that isn't really pressure or heat rated, so it'd be fine for a little while but eventually fail. So I opted to just drill and tap it. Got the bungs on the shelf there at Weldware. Just do it now and then worry about it never. So that's good. And here we have the gearbox cross member done. Obviously I haven't drilled the holes in it for the actual mount. I wanted to do that with the motor and that back in the car. I know that it's 20mm offset to the passenger side, but just, you know, just to be safe and sorry. You can see I've only bent one side. That's going to be behind the gearbox, so it's going to, gearbox is going to, or motor and box is going to be towards this way. I was going to bend both flanges, but I was worried about tail shaft clearance at full droop on the suspension. So I'll cycle the suspension when or if I get new springs. Cycle the suspension, make sure the tail shaft's not going to hit. If it isn't, I'll bend it up. If it is, I'll leave it. One fold at 45 should be more than enough to support that little gearbox and transfer case. That's 10mm plate, mild steel. You'll notice there that that's been welded and buffed off. I attempted to bend it in our pan brake, but it was having an issue, so I ended up grinding halfway through it, putting it in the vise, bending it with the shifter, and then I just used our 1.2 flux core gas shielded heavy structural welding wire. It's made by Lincoln subsidiary company Oerlikon. So I just glued it up there. That'll be plenty strong enough. Still got to buff a bit of spatter off it. Maybe I'll plug some of them holes. I won't. I can't be bothered. But that should be good enough, I think. So the engine mounts and everything are over there on top of the bloody rabbit's box thing. They're all painted, ready to go. I'll throw the water pump on the little K, throw the mounts on it. Maybe I'll swing it in, I might not. I actually want to get in there with the Scotch-Brite and Degreaser in the engine bay do what I done with that Hilux for Jimmy. Scrub the entire inner guards and firewall while the motor's out, because that thing come out like it was brand new. I've cleaned it just with degrees and truck wash and that, but just that shit there, like around where the exhaust was leaking with the original motor and that, get in there, give it a scrub up while I can, and then we'll sling it back in. I'm not going to worry about painting the chassis. The only thing that's going to be painted on this vehicle is what I've done. The plan is to leave everything else original. So whatever I've touched, so the shocks and springs, if I get springs, will be new. Obviously the gearbox cross member, the radiator I fucked with, engine mounts, all that. The floor pans, and that'll all have to be painted. But the rest of it, I want to leave predominantly the original colours. I'm not even going to paint the air cleaner. I'm going to put it back on because I love the look of it. And the fan shroud. That's going on like it is because it looks fucking amazing. Took 40 years to get that good. I ain't going to change it. So, I'll bust that water pump off this K-Series and throw the other one on. Look at that. And the other side of the bonnet as well, both inner guards, firewall, so much more better. Bit of Scotch Brite and some of this stuff. Chemtool CT14 degreaser. The heaps better than the degrees you get from bloody Supercheap Auto. It comes out thick like hand soap. And I use it a lot and I like it. So, you want to finish like that? Run, don't walk to your nearest Chemtools dealer. Hit them up. Because it's good gear. Good gear. I mean, just look at the engine bay and that. My Lanta. Jeez Louise. I done that transfer case, gearbox and motor with it too. That transfer case looked like it grew out of the ground like a potato. Shiny again. Hit up Chemtools. They got a good kit. Aussie company. Buy Australian, made in Australia. Okay, now we've got the engine bay nice and clean. It's time to swing. Wait a minute. You hear that? There's a fucking ice cream truck here somewhere. Oh. I've got to get ice cream. Fucking told you there was an ice cream truck coming. I bet you didn't believe me, did ya? Don't get between me and sugary sweet ice confections, I can tell you. Worth it. Anyway, let's swing the motor back in this thing after an ice cream break. Yeah. Alright, she's getting pretty dark out here, as you can sort of semi-see. But, motor and box, in. Plonk, done. Super happy with it. Came out fucking awesome. Seam sealing's done in the corners, pretty messy, but you're not going to see it. That's all dry, so I can box the nose up. So, we'll shut it down here for this video. Wanted it to be short and sweet, but I've got a vibe, it probably ain't going to be short and sweet. No doubt it's still going to be like half an hour. But that's alright, we'll get into her. So, she's getting dark as fuck out here. I'll box the nose of this rig up, because I'm tired of seeing it in bits. And I've got a house inspection in like a week and a half. That's okay. Catch you guys on the next one. Maybe I'll be doing tail shafts. Probably not. Whatever.